Your voice, your opinion, your community. Fact TV, free speech, protected.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Voices of Monadnock. I am Anina Hansen, and we're bringing you this show today as a collaboration between Monadnock Family Services Trauma Responsive Monadnock Program and the Greater Monadnock Collaborative Chamber of Commerce. So we're just putting it out in the community, who the people are, doing all the things. And the person we have who's doing the things today is Coeni van Beek.
You'll get a 9 out of 10.
Nailed it! Okay.
No, it's not nailed yet, but 9 out of 10.
Close enough. I think by American standards, that was really good, considering at the last possible second, I couldn't remember what his last name was. So here we are. Welcome. Glad to have you. Thanks for being here. And you are most assuredly not a Monadnock native, as people will quickly become aware. So go ahead and tell us who you are and how you ended up in the Monadnock region.
Right, so 55 years ago, I was born in a little town called Temple.
Yeah, I bet you were.
And I've been living here. I studied here. I've been here my whole life.
Yeah, Monadnock native,
yeah,
through and through.
I even have the tattoos to show you, but I'm originally South African. Interesting fact on that is the next country I go to will be number 110 in the world.
Wow.
So just because of the work I've done, I've traveled extensively, and both Monique
you have
and I
indeed
love to travel. So, but South Africans, not too far away from where you've spent a lot of time in your life over in Kenya.
Yeah.
At least for Americans, they think it's like
it's just basically
place.
Africa's a country,
Yeah.
right? So.
Did most of my first 30 years of my life was in South Africa, and at that point I really started moving. Did a PhD in the Netherlands, which took me there for a year and a half. Back to South Africa, then joined PricewaterhouseCoopers for 25 years. I just semi-retired from them.
Okay.
And in that context, I traveled a lot as well. So lived on 3 continents, 6 international moves, married 32 years, and the next town I live in will be number 16.
Okay.
And we were really, really, really looking for a place where life is just a little bit calmer, where people are actually kind. They're not necessarily always nice, but they're always kind.
Okay.
And just a rural environment, and I think New Hampshire just worked for us. So
I would say it ticks all those boxes.
Absolutely.
But how did you find out? Like, did you just put your finger on the map, or had you spent time here?
The first time,
and
so
why
this is the
part?
second time we're in America. The
Okay.
first time now we're citizens, so we've done the whole green card thing. But the first time we lived in Belmont, just outside of Boston, and
Massachusetts. Puh.
Well, I wanted to say
Sorry, we'll have to edit
but
that
I don't
out.
think we're allowed to say Massault. I was a Massault originally, the first time, but we lived in...
You've seen the error of your ways.
We lived in Belmont, really liked it. We really like New England. There's a couple of things that I think New England gets right, just like how people show up, and maybe the kindness thing is...
New England is broad. New Hampshire, I'll take.
But give me a chance. I'll get you to Peterborough.
Okay.
But it's a journey. You need to bear with me on the journey.
All right.
So that was our first exposure, and we all went back. I was here for 5 years. Monique and the kids were here for 3 years. We went back to South Africa, and then the second opportunity, I started off in New York. Which was tough. I really did not enjoy New York. It was just a weird environment for me. My African roots, and we just go a little bit slower than what New York really needs from you. Both my kids went to universities in Texas, and we ended up in Houston.
Texas.
Yeah, that one I'm comfortable. Yeah, well, different conversation. And then from Texas, I took a marketing and sales role in the Northeast. So it was right at the beginning of the pandemic. I had an opportunity to move back here. Now, one good thing about Texas is that they don't have state taxes. So I'm like, which states in New England don't have state tax? And New Hampshire. It wasn't the only reason. I always say that tongue in cheek. It was truly the natural environment that just really, really worked for us. And the fact that because it was a Boston-based role, that it was within striking distance of Boston. We ended up in a condo in Hudson, which is a challenge because it's not where we really wanted to be. It was just the place. At the same time, when we bought that, we bought 30 acres of land in Temple, New Hampshire.
There you go. Finally
and
wised
that's how
up.
we got there.
Came to your senses.
Yeah, and subsequent to that, we sold Hudson. We're now renting in Peterborough because we want to build in Temple, and it's where we rent is 9 minutes away from where we want to build. And build, there's a lot of things, if I say build, there's a lot of things around building. We want to physically build a house. We want to build community here. We really want to be part of this 1.3 million people community in the kind of state in the country. So building a business, building a house, just building shit all over the place at the moment. Sorry, just building stuff all over the place at the moment.
Nice, good. And, okay, no, I'm not even going to prompt you. Just, so what is it that you're involved with here? And, you're talking about what you are building, what you want to be building. Just hit me. What's your vision?
So if you ask me to describe who I am in 2 words, I think it's spelled 2 words.
How funny. That's what I was about to ask you.
People development. I'm in my DNA, I'm a people developer.
Okay.
So how does my 37 years of work experience translate into people development? And it's really around everything I do in the coaching space. And in the coaching space, there's really 3 things I focus on. It's just executive coaching. You and I spoke a little bit about that when we first met. There's everything where you bring teams together. I did my PhD in change management, so that's where the team side of me really comes into it. That's where the wisdom horse stuff we're doing over
which you'll have to tell us about,
if we get time, because right now I'm just burning. We're at 20 minutes. We're burning through time here.
Talk faster.
It's counting down. So so that's the team coaching, the team building, change management stuff, and that's really why I think the bulk of my work in the state would be. Because if we truly want to build our community, we need to build our teams. And we can talk about that for hours. And then the third thing I do, which is a really big part of my business, I have a very unique niche in that I help teams in the sales process, and specifically on how you show up when you do sales presentations. So one day, if you have time, you can go and look at my LinkedIn profile and you'll see some of the stuff that I've written there. But how do you show up? How do you plan? How do you prepare? What materials do you use? The whole what you say, what you hear, what you see premises, the whole team dichotomy of success and unsuccess. The first date experience. So how do you build relationship and get the client to like you, because ideally to love you, because if they get to like and love, then it's just negotiating price. But that's a big part of what I've done the past 10, 15 years of my life. So the business I'm trying to build is just around how can I help people be better.
And are you doing that here in Monadnock, or you take that out and offer it beyond our borders?
So that's interesting, because business plans evolve.
As they should.
I think the sales coaching part of it is something that I do throughout the US well, potentially even throughout the world. So it's a very specific niche, and it's focused typically on multinational corporations. We don't have that many multinationals in New Hampshire.
Nope.
So that's very geographically spread. If you look at the team stuff and getting people to just be better and all of that, I think that has the potential to be a really, really local thing. And then if you think about executive coaching, I think that's the biggest opportunity for you to really invest into somebody's success. So I think at the moment I have coaches in South Africa, I have coaches in Kazakhstan, but I think as my business evolves, there's a number, and maybe it's 10 or 12 people that you can really coach and coach well if you do all the other stuff I do. And I would love for those 10 or 12 people, for the majority of them to actually be local as well. So I
Cool.
love some of the things we do here in New Hampshire, on just Leadership New Hampshire. I'm not even sure
Right.
if I get that name right. And what
You did. And
that
Leadership
team is.
Monadnock.
And Leadership Monadnock. But even younger, and now we're getting totally sidetracked. But what are we doing? So I have 2 kids, 28 and 31. How do I get them to move to New Hampshire?
Right. How do you?
And how do we get 50,000 more people to do that? And I think what I can do, I can't help with the housing issue. That's
Right.
the elephant in the room. I can't help with paying people living wages, but I can help you understand who you are, understand your value proposition, be comfortable in the job market, be comfortable at how you show up, how you develop people, and that's the difference I want to make. So I think on the executive coaching side, there might be a little bit of more of a New Hampshire shift compared to where it is now, just like with the
Interesting.
team stuff. And the pursuit stuff, the sales stuff, I think is where I need to make money. So I do think I need to have that balance between where do you make money, where do you invest time, where do you invest money.
And now, tell us how this all fits together with the context in which I met you, which is horses.
So Wisdom Horse is just, now let me step back. So one of your biggest challenges when you work with teams and people, and in your context you'll understand this as well, is we're always posturing. We're always trying to be something we're
Present
not.
ourselves a certain way
You're so
in order
eloquent.
to make people think of us the way we want to be thought of.
You can just continue, because they're recording this. I'm going to use this snippet. Go on. So what does partnering with horses do? So all of a sudden you have this, and now I need to think pounds versus kilograms, 15,000 pound animal in the room that's bigger and taller than you, and they smell funny, and it's a really cool equalizer because it takes all the posture out of you. It just cuts you down to size. Even because we never get on horses, we just partner with horses and you do stuff. So even people that's used to riding horses are not necessarily good at partnering with horses doing stuff.
Interesting, okay.
So my excitement on the horses and the Wisdom Horse stuff is just that equalizer that it brings. Because for me to then facilitate what I observe or help you reflect on how you behave, that's the beauty of the coaching. But the catalyst that gets you to the uncensored behavior is the horse. I actually like that. The horse is a catalyst to get you to uncensored behavior.
And it's on
And
film,
again,
so you can just go back and write it down afterward.
I know, I'm just going to cut it out and use it. But so that's what we're trying to do with the horses.
Well, it makes sense because you're talking about team building and then the idea of I'm here riding the horse versus I work with the horse and we do things together. Taking that idea and bringing it back to how you work with a team is a total transformation of the typical hierarchical, authority approach to it. And I can imagine that would be very paradigm shifting for people in the workplace.
It is. And you're going to join us, hopefully,
Yes, I am.
on the 9th. But what's really cool, the way we design it, so the first thing you do is I present a herd of horses to you. And I tell you, right, here's 5 or 7 horses. We need to work with 3. Pick the 3 horses. I don't tell you anything about. All you see is the horses. So then we vote. There's some sort of a system. We pick the 3. But just the bias or the subconscious bias that comes out with how you pick a horse.
I would be going straight to, that one's pretty and that one's pretty. I want to work with those ones.
One of our horses we call the Beyonce of the herd. She's just a beautiful horse and everybody wants to work with her. And she's a very cool horse as well. But for instance, we have some minis and people are just comfortable saying, well, I want to pick the mini. It's a small horse. Minis are as stubborn as hell. It's just really difficult. But now you've made your choice.
Right.
So just like you put a team together, you pick people, you're going to be a team. Now you need to do things. Now you can't just swap people out. This is not NFL where you just swap people out. You're
Make
now
a
stuck
trade
with your team. Now you need to make it work. So there's this whole progression, but you start just with the first choice of who's on your team. It's almost like being picked for football when you're a kid or soccer when you're a kid, and you're the last kid picked, but there's
the last horse in the herd.
Exactly. There's a bias that. So what's just really cool is now you build the awareness. Oh, I go for the beautiful one or the big one or the small one for whatever reason, or the one that I think has nice eyes, or whatever reason people bring in, and then you just try to translate that for people. So how does that impact your behavior in it as a team? And how do you pick people? Often people make decisions for you, so you don't even get a choice. You just get the 3 difficult horses. How do you work with them?
Well, it's interesting because like my brain went first to, I would naturally be like, I think that is a pretty horse. But when I picture myself doing that, the second thing I would do is scary horse versus not scary horse, which of course is always, I look at everything through the trauma lens and just seeing how my own, the fears that are kind of operating under the surface so much of the time that I'm not consciously paying attention to, but that would be the next thing coming out there. Which one of the horses is like, makes me feel scared, vulnerable, and which one is like, oh, okay, maybe this one isn't so bad, which then again makes me think around to the teams thing, how we're not aware when we're working with people
I love it.
of our own, our fears and the vulnerabilities and whatever that are driving us.
Do you realize what you just did?
No.
Without even a horse in this room, you identified the subconscious bias because of your background, because of what you do, on how you look at a potential herd of horses. Do I feel safe? I do the same thing. I don't like the minis, the small horses. I'm 6'5". It just feels wrong. I love a big horse. I want a horse that I can look in the eye. So there's a physical size thing. Because I feel uncomfortable. So I have this subconscious bias. But you, because of the work you do and what you're exposed to on a daily basis, you bring the whole, is this a safe environment? Am I safe? What's the danger here? Is this?
Yeah.
And you bring it into how you make decisions, how you manage teams. So the wisdom horse thing, great example. You just, as I said, without a horse in the room, you identified that. So then as a coach and a facilitator is right. Now that we're aware of it, do we want to counter it, or is it perfectly acceptable? We want to have that in our behavior, and that's how we want to build our teams. And in your environment, that's absolutely mission critical, and you need to have it. So that's just one of the things we're gonna name it and be proud of it.
Yeah.
So but the cool thing about the horses is it's like a leveling agent. It just no matter how great you think you are, it just cuts you. They just cut you down to size because they so responsive, they're so intuitive, they have an amazing ability to read you and to look into your soul. If you're a bad person, a horse don't like you. It is as simple as that.
Right. And it removes that posturing element that you mentioned, because you can't show up and be like, hey horse, I'm going to totally impress you with how smart and capable I am, or whatever the things are, the stories that we're running around with most of the time with other people. When you interact with an animal, it's much, I don't even know, what would we say, is that the soul level or something, where the communication that's happening, the judging of each other that's happening isn't all the superficial things that humans use with each other. And once again, coming back to that safety thing, like I will feel more safe if people think I'm powerful, so I'm going to be very controlling, or whatever our stories are that we're stuck in so much of the time, usually based on the scary things that happened to us when we were young. All of a sudden, here we are, adults here with an animal, and none of that story is there. It's not part of the dynamic.
Let's just call it a soul connection. We're allowed to create language here. So what is interesting, though, is what you touched on now is just how you can use horses in therapy. And Boo, that I work with, is really good in that stuff. That's not my wheelhouse. That's not my expertise. So what you just touched on is a whole different level of how you can use a horse to really help people heal. But the common denominator is a horse really... I'm a big dog guy. I think I've mentioned to you my dogs. I think dogs has it as well. Horses can just see into your soul, and they just know what you need. And sometimes they will just be that calm energy that just brings the temperature down. And sometimes they'll really engage with you, and you'll get excited, and they'll get excited, and that's another form of energy, and it's good energy. But they're really good on the therapeutic side of helping people heal as well, but not my expertise. So I've seen some of it, because when you do this, we have 6 minutes.
We're fine. We're good.
left.
I just got to check in and stay on track. Keep going.
We'll just record 3 of these.
Multiple episodes.
Yeah,
today's
why
part
not?
1.
But they just have that ability to connect with you. It's one of the things that I always find the most amazing in the feedback we get, is how people will say, I was there for 4 hours and I didn't look at my phone once.
Another whole topic here, right?
Yeah.
That right there. Okay, anyway, you keep going.
We need to talk about ceramic cups when you drink coffee as well.
Do we?
Yes, that's another nice topic.
Okay.
Just thought about it.
We'll put a pin in that one.
Yeah. Do you want topics? Should we brainstorm
topics? The
topics?
whole idea of humans and social media and the whole, it is another whole topic.
It is interesting, though, because it's all about presence. If you think about coming back to New Hampshire, one of the things I like here, nothing is near, nothing is far. No matter what the rush, you can't do anything fast. So you're forced to slow down, very similar to our experience in Africa as well. And the moment you're forced to slow down, you're forced to be present. So the moment, now you're in a room with a big animal, there's safety issues, and we do a lot to make sure you're safe, physically safe from the horses, but you really can't run around with you. We don't even allow you to take photos. We'll take photos and you'll get it, because I don't want you to look at your phone and miss something in the horse behavior and create a dangerous situation. But it forces you to be present. My same little issue with my ceramic cup that I get my coffee in. I think it's absolute sin the way we all run around and take out coffee and then we run. Just take a ceramic cup if the coffee shops offers it. Pour it, sit down, just pause for a second. That whole slow down, just be present.
Right, which our culture no longer supports. And I'm so aware of this now, doing work that I love so much, and it's so meaningful to me, and it brings together my whole lifetime of experiences. I love the trauma responsive Monadnock program, and I can't pace myself for crap. It's like I'm just constantly bought into the whole, now I gotta do this, now I gotta do that, and these people need this, and da-da-da, and I think it's part of that posturing in a very benign sense, but I want to help everybody, and I want everybody to see me as helpful, and I just want the whole, I'm a good person doing good things, and then I fail to be good to myself, and that balance right there feels to me like the work of a lifetime of how to figure out how to be who we are and who we came to be, especially when we're fortunate enough to find the work that lights us up, but to do it inside the container of our own judgment according to our own personhood and our own ability to be present and what we have to be present with, versus the external force and voice of culture being like, it has to look like this or else, and just the pressure that keeps us from being present, which then keeps us from being and achieving the best of what we really could. And it's such a difficult cycle that I am constantly monitoring, just correcting myself of be the best I can. But the part of that requires me to start here and be inside with it. Anyway, that's my tangent. But
the beautiful thing, real life story, it just happened to me. So you pinged me yesterday, can we start half an hour later? So I have a choice. I just move everything up and I just squeeze you in, or I just leave the time I wanted to leave. So I left at 10. I gave myself a lot of time. I did my coffee shop thing with my I have a glass mug. With my glass mug, and I just sat down and I read a little bit, and I came and I sat in the library.
Nice.
And I started talking to this person at a desk, and I feel terrible, I don't know what her name is, but she was so passionate about the library, and I think she picked up on my accent, and like, you can rent stuff here, you can rent skis. I'm like, I think maybe that ship has sailed for me. I'm not sure I will ever master that winter sport, but that's the exact reason, because you need to ski and you don't need to buy the equipment because you can rent it here at the library. But her passion of having that conversation and all that interaction, which was a true, authentic human interaction, I would not have had if I just filled that time that you gave me
something
by
else.
saying, can we start half an hour later? So you gave me opportunity to pause. And now I've had this lovely interaction with somebody whose name I don't remember, which is horrible. I never introduced myself. But how beautiful is that?
Yeah.
So my highlight for today, I would have thought yesterday, would most probably be our conversation. Now there's strong competition on it, because I had this lovely conversation with somebody who was just passionate about their town and their library and what they do and the space they create for people. And that was because of a pause.
Because of presence.
Yeah.
Exactly. How are we doing? We got 1 minute left.
14, 13, 12, 11, 10.
Let's just count down the rest of the time. No, let's look back. So you've had a life that's taken you all these places, and you've done wonderful things. You have work that you love, and now you're here in the Monadnock region, and you have 1 minute to tell us about what presence inside that big picture context means to you right now.
No, you need to ask
50
easier.
seconds.
Easier,
Okay.
quick. No, that's fine. I think the essence of presence, whether or not it's working with horses or coaching an executive on a $2 billion company or getting a team to being better, is to be purposeful in creating time to be present. If you're purposeful in creating the time, you'll be present, and then you'll get the reward.
That's so wonderful.
I have 19 seconds
You
left.
perfectly closed it out, and we can say to our listeners/viewers today, oh, the timer also says it's
We'll
time
cut
to be
that
done.
out.
Oh, we'll leave it. It's just part of the process. I want to close it up with that. Thank you for being here and being present in our space in this conversation today. Thank you for joining us on Voices of Monadnock. I'm Anina Hansen. Thank you, Coeni, for being with us today. And thank you all for being here, and we look forward to seeing you in another conversation. 14 seconds over.